Hey everyone, thanks for joining Learn to Play Games. My name is Lance, and in today's video I'm going to teach you how to play My Lil Everdell. This is a brand new game from Starling Games. It is a 1 to 4 player game that takes roughly half an hour to an hour to play, and is a competitive game where players are going to be competing with each other to gain the most points and be the overall winner at the end of the game. So this is based on Everdell, and for those of you that have families with young kids that obviously cannot handle the complexities of Everdell, this might be one that you'd like to look into, as this is going to take what you loved in Everdell and kind of streamline it down a little bit for younger players to be able to understand and comprehend. This is also an excellent version of Everdell, as it kind of does, again, take everything down to a very basic version, but is also can be played very quickly. So for those of you that are experienced at Everdell and are looking for a little twist that might be able to add the game and a smaller footprint and to be able to kind of get you into it as quickly as possible, this might be a fun one as well. So in this video, I'm going to teach you how to play, starting with components, setup, player turns, and endgame conditions and scoring. As always, if you find my videos helpful, if you like what I do, please consider hitting that like button and subscribe to my channel. It's one of the easiest ways you can support channels like mine so we can continue to grow, be able to produce this content. If you want to get notified anytime I drop new videos, also give that notification bell a ring, and that'll let you know when I drop new stuff, as I'm constantly adding new videos, including teaching videos, playthroughs, Kickstarter videos, unboxings, and many others. So if you want to stay up to date, hit that bell, and that'll keep you informed. Also, let me know in the comments down below what other kind of videos you'd like to see, whether it's around this game or any other game. So let's go ahead and head to the table, and I'll teach you how to play. The first component I will look at are the resource dice, and there's going to be a set of 4 of these included in the game. Each of these is a custom 6-sided die with a number of different icons on it. So let's look at a breakdown of these. So you're going to have one side with 2 berries, one side with 2 resin, one side with 2 twigs, and then you'll have one side with a selection where you get to choose one resource of your type from the selected 3 different types of resources. Then you're also going to have one side which will give you a resource of your choice and a token for points at the end of the game. And then finally, there is one side that is going to have all 3 resources. You'll get to gain 1 twig, a resin, and a berry on that side. There are 3 different types of resources you're going to be using throughout the game: berries, twigs, and resin. And these are represented in 2 different ways. You can either use the game pieces or tokens, and the tokens can also be used as extras of these if you're using the game pieces to represent them. Next, there's going to be one main deck of cards you'll be using throughout the game. This deck is going to be comprised of a collection of cards that is going to contain both critters and places. So next, let's break down the cards so you know how to use them. So each card up in the top corner is going to list whether it is a critter or a place. Next is going to be the resources that you're going to have to spend in order to purchase that card from the supply. Then you'll have the amount of points that card is worth at the end of the game, an image of that card, along with its color symbol, and there's going to be a collection of 5 different symbols, as you can see here on this chart. These will be green, tan, blue, red, and purple. And each one of them will have different abilities and different ways that it'll be activated, which I'll cover a little bit later in the video. Then each card is going to have a name, along with any resources it grants, or depending upon the type of card it is, what kind of conditions you'll need to do in order to activate it. For example, with blue cards, they will be triggered by certain conditions. Red cards will have a space that you can place a critter on to activate it, and purple cards will grant you additional ways to gain points at the end of the game, with most of them. Now, not all of these are going to work exactly the same way. The next component I want to look at are the parade tiles, and players are going to be trying to collect these throughout the game, as these will get them additional victory points at the end of the game. Each player can only claim one of each of the tiles throughout the game, and each one of these tiles is going to be worth victory points at the end. Each tile is also going to have requirements the player must meet in order to collect it, and once a player does, they'll go ahead and collect the top one in the stack immediately upon completing the requirements for it. For example, this one here, you need at least 1 red, purple, green, tan, and blue card in your area in order to collect this one. With this one here, you need 3 of one of these colored types, so either red, purple, tan, or blue. With this one, you need 5 places, and with this one, you need 5 critters. The final component I want to go over is the game board itself. At the top of the board is going to be the round tracker. At the beginning of the game, you'll place the moon on the first round, and then at the end of each round, you're going to move the moon along that track until it reaches the end. Next, you're going to have spaces for the 3 different resources in the game, and you'll go ahead and construct the crates the first time you play and place the resources in them, and then place them in their section. Underneath each one of those sections is going to be a spot where you'll be able to place critters in to gain a resource from that spot. With the multi-pad space, that means that any number of critters can be in those spaces. Next, you're going to have a space that you'll be placing a die in once you've rolled it, and these spaces will only have a single pad, which means that only one critter can be in there. So if a player goes in there, no other player, including that player, can go back there for that resource until a later round. Finally, underneath that is going to be a space for the different parades tiles to be placed, and that'll be where they're going to be stored throughout the game, as you're going to see in setup. For setup, the first thing you're going to do is place the main game board out in the center of the table, and then you can place the moon token above the first round on the round track. From there, then you'll also want to assemble the crates if this is the first time you're playing the game, and definitely be careful with these because some of the joints in them will separate if you're a little rough with them. So it may even be worth getting some really thin super glue and placing it on there so you don't have the separations, and you do not want to disassemble these and reassemble them a bunch because they will not hold up real well. But they hold up great once you have them together, so definitely assemble them once and leave them together. They should fit back into the game box once you're done. Then go ahead and place the tokens in there and place them on their different slots along the board. With the other one, with all the tokens in it, you can place this anywhere you want to, somewhere off of the board so the players can reach it when they need to. Next, grab the resource dice and place them on their different slots along the board based on the number of players. For my game, I'm going to set up for a 2-player game, so I'm just going to place 2 of them out, and then the rest of the dice can be returned to the box as you're not going to use them for this game. You can also place out the parade tokens, and again, based on the number of players, you can choose to place out less if you want to. You only need 1 per player that is playing, and you'll always place these in the order from the highest to lowest. So for this example, if I was to place out all 4 of these, I'll have the 6 on top, followed by 5, 4, and then 3. In a 2-player game, I'd only need the 5 and a 6 for each one of these token sets. So I'm just going to place those out for this game, as each player can only collect 1 of each one of the parade tokens throughout the game, so there's no reason in having the lower ones out for this game. Any tokens you're not going to be using for the game can again be returned to the game box. Next, go ahead and shuffle up the main deck of cards and deal 8 cards out underneath the main game board. Once you've completed that, place the main deck off to the side as you're going to be refilling this deck or these cards that are face up throughout the game. For player setup, give each player a home board, and I'm going to again set up for 2 players, so each player will have one of those, and then they'll select their set of 3 critters. So I'll have one player be green and the other player be orange. One thing I do want to point out with this is if you're playing with younger players or inexperienced players, if you want to give them a little bit of a lead or a little bit of a head start, there's 2 different options for this, and you can mix and match these, giving that player all of them or just some of them. The first suggestion is to have that player start out with 1 resin, 1 twig, and 1 berry. The other way you can help players out is with 2 different types of cards. You have a critter card that player will start the game with, or they also have a place card they can start the game with, or you can give them both of them. And this will give that player a little bit of a head start in helping them along in the game. The final step is to choose 1 player to be the starting player, and this can be any player you want to. The book suggests the shortest player or the youngest player, however you want to do this. So I'm going to go ahead and have the green player be the starting player. From there, you're ready to move into the game. My Lil Everdell is played over 4 rounds. During each round, it is comprised of 5 phases that are going to be done in order, and at the end of the 4th round, the players will enter into a special scoring step where they'll score up all their points, and the player that has the most will be the winner of the game. So from here, let's go ahead and get into the very first round, and I'll take you through each one of those phases. The first phase in the round is the roll dice phase. During this phase, the player that has the sun token or starting player will gather up all of the resource dice and roll them, and then place them out on the game board. The order of these dice does not matter. The second phase in the round is gathering goodies. During this phase, each player is going to activate all of their green cards and resolve any effects on them. At the beginning of the game, players are not going to have any cards unless you've given players advantage cards, such as the captain or fort, for players that aren't as experienced with the game. So for this example, let's go ahead and say that the orange player had these cards, and so we would activate each one of these cards, resolving its ability at the bottom. So with the captain card, you're going to gain 1 coin, and you'll place that on your home board. And then with the fort, you can gain a resource of your choice. So let's go and say that we want to gain a resin for that. And so I'll place that on there. And then once all the players are done with that, you're ready to move on to the third phase in the round. The third phase in the round is the take turns phase. During this phase, you're going to start with the starting player or player that has the sun token and proceed clockwise around the table with each player getting to take a turn. Each player will take 3 turns during this phase, and each one of the player's turns is going to consist of a couple of different steps. So let's go ahead and move into the starting player's turn. So during the player's turn, they're going to first place one of their friends in one of the locations. At the beginning of the game, they're only going to have a couple of locations on the board, but later on in the game, once they've purchased new cards into their area, any red card will most likely have a space that they can place one of their friends onto and gain resources from it. Now, an important note with this is that you are never allowed to place your friend on another player's red location or critter to gain resources from that. You can only place it on your spaces that you have in your area. But again, like I said, at the beginning of the game, all you're going to have is the main game board. And there's going to be 2 different types of locations on there. You'll have the locations that have a die above them, and when you place a friend in there, you'll gain all the resources on that die that are listed. Now, only one critter could be at each one of these locations, so once a critter is placed there, then nobody else can place a critter on that spot. The other option is the top locations, so there'll be 3 different ones, one for each of the resources. Any number of friends can be placed on these locations, and when you place one on there, you'll gain the resource that is above that location. So if I go here, I will gain 1 berry and add it to my home. But for our example, let's go ahead and say that we place our critter here, or our friend there, and so we're going to gain 1 berry, 1 resin, and 1 twig from the supply. Then you're going to go ahead and place these on your home. The next step is to purchase a card from the market. You spend your resources from your home, returning them to the supply, and you'll gain 1 as long as you can pay the cost for it. So currently, my player doesn't have enough resources to purchase anything that is out at this point, so then their turn would pass and the next player would take their turn in clockwise order. Now, one other important note is when you purchase a location or critter from the supply, so let's go ahead and say that we ended up buying the berry bear. We would place that in our location. We would refill from the supply, and then we'll also check our location to see if we gain any of the parade tiles by meeting the conditions on those. So for example, if this was our 5th critter that we placed in here, then we would take the top tile from this parade, as the requirement for it is to have 5 critters in our area. So right now that would be our first, so we would not be able to gain anything at this point. Before moving on with the rest of your turn, I do want to take a quick deeper look into each one of the card types and how they activate or how you resolve them. So the first ones we're going to look at are the green cards. And so anytime you purchase a green card, you're going to get to resolve the effects on the bottom of the card. On top of that, for the rest of the game, during each one of the later gather goodies phases, you're going to reactivate all of the green cards that you already have. For example, with the maze, when I purchase this card, I'm going to gain a victory point token that I'll add to my home. With this one over here with Chip, I can copy one of the green cards that you already have. So if this is the first green card you purchase, then this ability is pretty much useless. But let's say that we had the maze prior to this, and so we can choose the maze to copy, as that is another green card, which we will gain another victory point for. With tan cards, each time you purchase a tan card, you're going to immediately gain the resources that are listed at the bottom. So with this party card, I'm going to gain 2 resin, or the old one is going to grant me 2 twigs. This is the only time that the tan card will be activated and will grant you any abilities or resources, unless something else triggers that again. Red cards are not going to give you any bonuses when you purchase them, but will provide you with a new location that you can place your friend on in later turns. And each one of these will be able to hold one of your friends and will have an effect. For example, with this one, you can copy one of the green dice that are out there and gain the rewards for it. Or with the toy maker here, you're going to gain 2 twigs when you place one of your friends on that location. Blue cards are not going to give you any bonus right away, but will provide you with a condition that if you meet it throughout the rest of the game, it will trigger or give you some sort of perk or discount. For example, the swimming hole, each time you purchase a critter, it's going to cost 1 less berry. Or with the conductor, after you purchase a building or play a building, you're going to gain a victory point token. And this is going to happen each time these are met. So each time you purchase a building after you have this card, you're going to get a victory point token for it. And the final set of cards are the purple cards. Again, these will not give you any bonuses when purchased, but with some of them, they will provide you with an additional way to get victory points at the end of the game. For example, with the painter, you're going to get 1 additional victory point per building you have in your area. With other purple cards, such as the Evertree, it is simply going to be worth a lot more victory points at the end of the game, but will not provide you with any other bonuses. So from here, let's go through a couple more examples of this so you can see how all of this works. So next, it'll go over to the orange player to go, and so that player is going to go ahead and take this other location, as it's going to get them 2 twigs, and then they can choose to spend these right away to gain this location if they want to. So let's go ahead and say, or they could gain the toy shop. So let's go ahead and spend these, returning them back to the supply, and then I'm going to go ahead and take the toy shop, as this is going to give me a new location I can go to gain some much needed resin. So I'll go ahead and place that here. Another important note, with your home tile, you can either place all of the cards on one side if you want to, or you can separate them to help keep things easy to identify, where you can place all your places on one side, and then you can place your critters on the other side of the board, however you want to do it. Again, we'll replace that card from the supply, and right now our player does not meet any of the parade conditions, so that player's turn is over, and it'll move back over to the starting player to take their next turn. So with our player here, let's go ahead and say that they're going to go here to gain another berry. And so we'll add that to our supply. And then this time we are going to gain a card. So I'll go ahead and spend those 2 to gain the berry bear and add him to my area. Again, we'll refill, and then it'll move over to the next player to go again. So with our player here, I could go into one of those locations and gain win resource, but I do have the toy shop. So I'm going to go ahead and go there instead. And now I'm going to gain 2 resin from the supply. Again, with these, I can choose to spend them to gain a building or critter from the supply. So there is the bank that I could purchase at this point, which is going to give me an ability. So after I place a critter, I would gain a point token to my area. So that actually might not be a bad idea. So yeah, let's go ahead and do that. We'll spend those 2 to gain the bank. And again, we'll add that to our area and replace it with another card. From there, it'll move over to our starting player to take that player's final turn. So I'm going to go ahead and go to this location again and gain 2 berries. And from that, I am going to, I think I will spend these to buy the conductor. So I'll go ahead and add him to my area as well. And again, we will refill from the stack. All right, over to orange to take that player's final turn. And I think I'm just going to go here and gain a berry. At this point, then the round is over, as all the players have gone and placed out all of their friends. So we're ready to move on to the 4th step, or 4th phase in the round. The 4th phase in the round is return home. During this phase, each player is going to gain all of their friends back onto their home space. From there, then the 5th and final phase is going to have the first player token passed to the player to the right of that player. So the last player that took their turn will be the first player during this next turn, or next round. Then you're going to move the moon to the next round on the track. From there, you're ready to start the next round with the starting player, and again, going through those 5 phases. Once you've completed the 4th round, then you're going to enter into a special scoring step where all the players are going to total up all their points, and the player that has the most will be the winner of the game. This is going to be broken down into a couple of little steps. So first off, you're going to convert any resources you have to points. For every 2 resources you have, it converts to 1 point. So with this player, I have 5 resources, so I'm going to return these to the supply and gain 2 points. Any resources that don't complete the set of 2 are simply just wasted. So this player will pick up 2 more points for that. Then the player is going to look at each one of their purple cards. Each one of these purple cards, or most of them, are going to provide a different way for the player to gain additional points in the end of the game. For example, with the painter here, I'm going to get 1 additional point for each building that I have in my area. So I have 3 buildings, so I'm going to gain 3 more points for that. That is the only purple one I have to handle. So then after that, I'm going to get to total up all of my points. And you can also break this down and total these up and get tokens for them if that makes it easier for you as well. So for this example, each one of these cards is going to be worth 1 point. So that's a total of 5 points on this side. And then on this side, I have 5 points as well. Then I'm going to total up all of the points I have, including any parade tokens I have as well. So for this example, let's total this all up. So I have 6, 12, 17, there's 20, 30, and 5 points here for 35, 36, 37, and 38. So this player ended the game with 38 points. From there, you're going to compare that to the other player's scores, and whoever has the most points will be the winner of the game. Well, I hope you found the video helpful in learning how to play My Lil Everdell. As always, if you have any questions or comments, please post those in the comment section below and I'll do my best to answer them. And thank you so much for taking the time to watch my video and leave me feedback on it. I do really appreciate it and take into account everything you say to make the best possible videos. Until next time, I'll see you later.